voting, so sometimes at some of these meetings, we have coffee and we have donuts, and sometimes we've got a fruit platter. Okay, so that's some of the expenses. Then one day we had a private board meeting to discuss a lawsuit that was threatened against the community by Gene Smith and Rosemary Meester, your old board president.
Mr. President.
To which we had, I'm speaking.
Point of
we had
order.
addressed it.
Point of order. Go ahead, finish.
We had a closed door board meeting to discuss legal issues, to which I ordered pizza for us to work on our time. And anyone can go through the expenses. My expenses are itemized down to 75 cents for a toll. Then every one of my expenses is signed by the majority of the board for approval. So if I go and have a meeting with Commissioner Thompson, I put down my tolls, I put down my mileage, and I bring back a stamp stapled to my expense that I met with Commissioner Thompson. Previous board members, I have their expenses here, with no other board member having approved their expenses, authorized checks for themselves. Okay, then there's another board member who had a check cut to her husband with no other board member approval on it. My expenses are signed by the majority of the board. I invite and encourage every one of you to come and look at them. We're the most visible board. We're the most detailed board. I come from 2 public companies. I know exactly what to do. And this is how it's done. Then we have another expense for the first newsletter that the vendor would not issue us credit because we had never done business with them. So on my American Express card, with board approval again, I paid for the printing and the mailing of the newsletter and did it as a reimbursed expense. Ramona needs a laptop in our office. We do not have credit established with Dell. We do not cut a check in advance for items that we have not received. So I bought Ramona's laptop, again with board approval, on my credit card, and I will be expensing that. It's all open, it's all visible, period, end of story. I don't cut myself checks. All my checks get approved, and I stand as high as I can be.
Mr. Chairman, if I may interrupt, I believe you've explained your expenses plenty. There's no need to go into such detail. The entire board is completely honest, and we're all self-sufficient. We have no need to spend community $100 or something like that frivolously. So, can we move to another subject? Is the counting, is the vote count done or no?
It is not done yet.
It's not, I just.
It's almost done, Randolph.
I just wanted to, this neighbor's point, where does she get the detail? Does she just need to visit with the office to get the details, or?
Go ahead and address it.
We want to see this done.
I mean,
Contact them and set up an appointment, ask, request what you want to get. A lot of this stuff,
so she would just
Jay
go
is on
through the community
A lot of you guys
manager.
probably don't know that. You got to get a login and a password on that. It's not, what's the best way to say that? We have our community website, and then there's Connect, which is more through First Service, which for all stuff gets stored.
So all of that
Where you
information
can
should
get
be
that stuff, you can
available.
All of it is available for any homeowner until this month. They have always published full financials out there every single month. This month, the financials, they're only putting a face account.
Jay's not out
Now you
yet.
can
This was
submit.
addressed earlier by Ramona.
Now they
It's
can,
not
now
out
you
She was
can
there, she
submit.
said that she had published it, and she just hadn't changed something from private to
Oh,
public.
okay.
She knows the answer, she's just trying to cause trouble.
Oh,
No,
okay.
she told me it was there.
Okay,
She
so
said it was
it's
private.
a matter of
There,
the community,
conversation.
our association manager just needs to transfer the data and you'll be able to see it.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Every month.
Point of order, point of order. I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, I just wanted to say, I think it's important that I don't know why people are still argumentative about things like that. You know, I view what this board has done for our community as significant. I'm so thankful that we're not having the median torn out for the school entrance to go in. That's a part of the beautification. We hear now that the golf course was thinking about closing. Can you imagine what that would have done to our neighborhood? You know, if you don't like change and we're all entitled to opinion, that's fine. But, I just don't see the point in trying to drag everybody down.
Mr. Benetti?
Point of order. The lawsuit that was threatened by myself and Rose Meester was presented to the board in an open meeting. There was sunshine on that. There's no need to have a private meeting.
You got 150.
That's your call, that's not our call.
Well, I understand
We also
that.
discussed staff
And,
compensation, which hasn't done a closed board meeting, those two items were discussed.
well, and one other item,
Those two items were discussed.
but the lawsuit, there's only one item.
And staff compensation.
Staff compensation.
Oh, okay. And that was held here in the building.
The meeting was started here in the building, it's all annotated.
No, it wasn't. There were people, there were residents sitting here, Mr. Yes, yes.
No, it wasn't.
They were sitting here.
Started, other than us, there was no one here.
Let's see.
Well, let me
Walked down the parking lot, there was no one there.
May I make a statement, since you made a statement about me, which is completely untrue, and obviously you didn't check your facts. The check that was written out was written by the manager of this community, who was Lauren Wheeler at the time. It was signed by Rosemary Meiser because she was the president of the board. And it was written to me because I bought the TV for the rec room out of my money. And it was reimbursed. And I put it on the wall at no charge. So thank you very much for recognizing what it was for.
That was also brought up at Meet the Candidates night,
Which
and I
was
had it on
also
recording.
approved by John
Check
Baker, who
request
was
is
the
in-
liaison.
Check request is in here, and I have it, and it was requested by Rose.
You shouldn't, it was requested because she was the president to refund, I was the chairman of the committee.
I would never request
know
a check
that.
for myself.
David, you knew I was the chairman of the committee. You wanted to get on the committee.
I would never request a check for myself. That's just the
I
way
paid
we do
for it
things.
out of my own pocket
Got it.
because she couldn't order it online.
Good.
I don't think that's a point of contention, nobody cares they paid for it.
Right.
It's that your wife should not be cutting herself checks.
She didn't cut herself a
She
check.
cut you checks. There should have been other board members who approved it, not your wife. I think that's what he's saying. If he gets
It's
a check,
approved. It was
the
approved
other
at a
board
board meeting.
members
You know
sign that
what?
check
It was
or
approved
whatever.
by the liaison, who was John Baker.
Okay,
Well, there was,
here, he
It doesn't
was
matter. If you're gonna tell the
trying
story,
to
tell the whole
explain-
story now.
Okay, he was explaining transparency. For those of us that don't know the details, it doesn't matter. Just that I know that I can see all the records, and I know how to get the detailed information through the community association is all that matters.
Jim?
And I may be the only one that feels this way, but I like to express it. It seems like the voting process is so confusing and so complicated. Can't something be done? I mean, if,
I completely agree with you, Jim.
if I own a mutual fund, and they're gonna have a board meeting and election, they send me a proxy, I sign that proxy, I don't have to sign it over to some secretary to vote, however that secretary wants to vote. I sign it and I vote for whoever I want. I send that proxy is counted as if I were present at that meeting. And that's all there is to it. I don't have to show up at the meeting. Why can't we have a voting similar to that, where people can, who want to vote, have an opportunity to just send something in, and you don't have to mess around with all the proxies, tell my neighbor to do it, let the secretary vote it. It's
Jim, I completely agree with you. It's a burden, it's confusing. It is very confusing for people. I think it's a type of turnout. And at the end of today, within the rules that govern us, we're gonna go and look at the easiest, most friendly way to do voting and still abide by Florida rules and statutes and our covenants.
If I could interject to Jim's point, having been in other HOAs, I haven't been able to volunteer, I apologize, I just don't have the time right now, but serving on boards and ARB positions, the HOA, it's the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. The communication that we received is making the process seem much more difficult, in my opinion, based on my experience with what I received from other HOAs.
I agree. Maybe Danny or Ramona can talk about how other communities do voting, and is that something that we should
Well,
adopt? Or
Well, I
are
mean,
we, or are we,
I-
are we doing exactly what is governed?
No, I think the
and mandated?
letter, the language of the letter could be simplified,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
And you know, that is handled by our professional property management company. The voting is a
Okay.
separate entity from us, so,
Yes, so
Yeah.
this is kind of
and
twofold.
for those of you who haven't met Danny Ellis, Danny is the regional manager for First Service that oversees our property and several others.
Yes, and this is kind of twofold. You know, the letters are very cumbersome, and just to point this out, that maybe we can have an off-the-side conversation. But I think that it could have been produced a little bit better, because the agenda for this meeting was given to us in April. This notice in May didn't even tell us what time the meeting was.
That's understanding the responsibilities. Your association is governed under Florida Statute 720. And they have a requirement that a notice is sent out so many
Oh,
days in
sure,
advance.
sure, I
And then a
understand.
subsequent notice is sent out.
Right,
Usually the agenda in a HOA for the annual meeting doesn't have to be, because it's a membership meeting and the agenda is open.
I understand that, but what I'm just trying to say, you didn't have to include the agenda again in the May letter, but to keep it simple, there was nothing in the May letter. It said vote 12 to 6, blah, 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 or bring your paperwork for the meeting, but it never reminded people the meeting was at 7 o'clock. I mean, this could be constructed in such a simpler, more
But
organized
please
manner.
understand, because Jennifer has to be involved as association attorney, as
I know
a
that.
CAM,
Sure.
where it's unlawful practice of law for us to construct and write that letter. So we have to get attorneys involved.
No, that's,
Can I say something? This process is still a holdover from last year.
No,
Yeah, I mean,
that was revoked,
Just, I mean,
7/18.
I didn't write that letter, and I don't know who did, but we talked about today about making it simpler, because I
right,
think we just.
to my point, this
Yeah,
is
it's-
ridiculous.
Because all of
But
your
we-
points
I
are
think
taken,
that
and
we-
we agree that it's not a good process.
Right, so
Yeah,
we say that we will redo it so that it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and you want it user-friendly, 1, 2, 3, just here it is, and here's the time, here's what you do. This is too wordy, too lengthy, common people don't understand.
Let me tell you all about some of the other things that we've done. We have spent dozens and dozens of hours working with the school, the sheriff's department, our county commissioner about easing the traffic flows into the school. We have a very constructive dialogue with the principal, as well as the Darrell Flynn, our school superintendent. Jennifer Thompson, our commissioner, has been very supportive, and I think for most of you, you'll say that the traffic flows better than it has in a very long time. There's an issue in the morning, now that the school is providing the deputy, instead of our deputy, that he seems to be a little sedentary and he's not keeping the flow going, but the traffic's been better. We did not demolish all of that landscaping that the community paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for. So when you come into our neighborhood, you see this beautiful landscaping. It wasn't a good idea to tear that out to accommodate 8, 10 cars. It was better to work with the school and come up with a long-range plan to take care of that. Then Don, through his hundreds of hours of work, has gone through our invoices and found tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars of savings. He found contracts that we find to be punitive and egregious and not in the homeowners and the HOA's interest. We have kicked back tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars of invoices that we found to be incorrect or overcharged. We've had multiple attorneys billing for the same collection in the same house, so we have consolidated our legal services. If you had moved in and you had provided a long distance or international phone number and the gate called your house, we were getting billed dozens and dozens of pages of long distance phone calls that had never been funded before. We consolidated our phone services with the gates. We provided a new vendor to keep the pool clean and not green. We've repaired the fountains. We have the canopy over the playground that people forget, but it's been very well received. We've got the newsletter. We're working on the beach volleyball court. We're gonna take suggestions on other things that we do for this year, including making maybe this whole building a fitness center, adding parking here.
It's horrible.
Security's been a primary concern. We've started to address the houses that were overgrown and taken care of a lot. We've worked very, very heavily with the golf course on them taking care of their responsibilities. I think that we've come a long way in a pretty short period of time, and the newsletter and our communication is a start of that. You know, we've gone back and had some dialogue with First Service on things that we think they dropped the ball, and they credited us tens of thousands of dollars. Your dues only went up last year, less than $3, even though our costs and utilities and so many of those items went up in a far greater standpoint, and we offset some of that with some savings. So, another example, the community owns a rental house that was leased to a tenant by the previous board. That house went 3 years without collecting $1 in rent on that house. That's your dues. That's your revenue. 3 years we had a rental house. Now, we've not been aboard for just a few months, and 3 years went by that we never collected $1 on a rental house. Okay? So we came in, and not only did we never collect $1 on that house got their lease renewed. And by the way, let me shock you. What do you think a 3-bedroom house in North Shore rented for? $420 a month is what they rented for that house, which includes the dues. Nowhere near the market rate. And even at $420 a month, that tenant never paid us for 3 years. We had to get the sheriff's office and had to do an eviction, and the property damage and the cost of that was even more tens of thousands of dollars. That's how we've been stewards of your money and help take care of North Shore as we come in and we start to peel back the onion and look at all the things that we can get our hands around. And we're not doing it alone. We want advice from you folks. We want commentary from you folks. And one of the greatest things that we think that we can do is try and beat this community in. There's a road coming in right outside the Moss Park entrance that could be dumping 10,000 cars a day onto Moss Park Road, of which a pretty good percentage is going to want to cut through North Shore Golf Club Boulevard to go to Medical City and south. Well, we can hardly handle the traffic that we have now, plus the speeders, plus the trespassers, plus all the incidents of crime that's coming up. You want to preserve your property value, someday you want to sell your house, someday you're going to move. Well, our mission is to increase property values and try and provide security for our residents. Gating in this community will be one of the easiest, cheapest, and best ways for us to increase property values. Plus help with the traffic, plus help with security, home values, and the massive development that's going on around us. And we're happy to have commentary on that, but we think it will be minimal cost. It will be a huge bump for us in values, and could be one of the best things that our board ever did for y'all. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, who would be responsible then for maintaining the road?
We would have to take over the maintenance of North Shore Golf Club Boulevard, to which we would have to allocate reserves to. But we're fortunate the county just did what they call, I think John called it a 10-year resurface of that road. And so the county just did it, and hopefully you wouldn't need service for some time.
Has there been a study done on entrance and egress, the amount of traffic, the flow through of traffic related to the school, where the gate placement would be at, how that would impact?
We would have to allow unfettered access to the school, and other communities have a school within their gates, so it's not like it's a new idea. The golf course has already supported us and say that they would support us gating in the community.
How, could I, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the point of the question.
The count is,
We're totaling it as we speak.
Randolph would be done within 5 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
The point of the question, Dave, is someone on the board charged with the responsibility of putting together a feasibility study on this, so they can be presented to the residents?
Oh, absolutely, and right now, even before we go down significant engineering and cost and design, we're just really trying to find out if we can even get a green light from the county to go ahead and do this. So, there's a lot of different items in this. You've got traffic that is involved. The county at this point has not been unreceptive to the idea. We have to prove that we're fiscally responsible, that we can maintain that road. We have to prove that our residents support. And I think it would be a big deal, and I'm certainly open-minded to other opinions and other ideas on it.
Well,
The majority of the people who have reached out to us think it's a phenomenal idea.
the reason I'm asking this is, I haven't seen any paperwork on this at all. All I've seen is something mentioned in the community letter.
Yeah, we talked about, and we're so far from
Let me
taking
finish,
it.
okay? Thank you. And so I think I'd like to see, I think the residents would like to see some cost benefit on this. In other words, you talk about, well, you want to have maintenance on other gates. Okay. Well, yeah, that's a sentence, yeah. But we pick up the maintenance on the road. And so there's maintenance requirements there. We have maintenance on 2 gates. And so the point is there needs to be a full analysis, not only just from a cost perspective, although we haven't seen that. Because I'm not so convinced that that is overwhelmingly a huge amount of savings, number one. Number two, I'm not so convinced that just putting gates on each end is gonna have that much of a dramatic impact on our property values, because we already have individual gates, all the communities to protect our property values. And so you just have entrance and egress to the community, through via boulevard. So the point is that I think in the full interest of transparency to the community, I think there needs to be a detailed report and a white paper analysis done on that, and then presented to the community with facts and figures and conclusions.
And you know that we today maintain all of the interior roads from within the gates already. So
Absolutely.
It's not like that's a big surprise to us.
That's
But
right.
there has to be, we've got to look at the design. Yes, Randolph?
So I just gotta put you on hold. I gotta go up in an elevator, so I'm gonna put you on hold and leave you down here at my security gate.
Okay,
I'll be back in 2 minutes, 3 minutes.
great, thank you. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. You're absolutely right on. And before we get everyone too excited and before we spend a lot of money on design and feasibility, we're just trying to even see if we can even get permission to do it. And it's kind of like the dog chasing his tail. At what point do you start and stop on it? And really, do we get the green light that this is even a viable thing? We don't want to spend 5 years on this. And if it appears that Orange County government is supportive, and remember, our commissioner only has got about 3 years left in office. So when Jennifer turns out, we probably have 0 chance of getting this done, candidly. So we're either gonna have to do it fairly quickly or shortly on it. But we'll have to look at the cost of the gate, we'll have to look at the cost to staff the gate. We'll have to see if we get a break in insurance. You folks are gonna have to see if there's an increase in the property values. We've heard there's a pretty relevant increase in property values for that. A lot of the maintenance on our interior gates comes from people that force them open. So, yeah, there's some good and bad to it, for sure. And we have to make sure the school access is unfettered. Anybody who's been to Eagle Creek, see how it works there. They have interior gates and a main gate, and it works fairly well. Yes, sir?
I'd like to commend the board, first of all, because you have done a tremendous job, in my opinion. I've been a resident for a little over a year. I'm an owner for more than 3 years in Indigo Bay Circle. It's a marvel to me that you've been able to, in the 3 years that I've owned here, for the prices to come down to where they are, a little over $80 a month. Fantastic job. But to this point regarding the gate, I've spent a lot of time on John Wycliffe Boulevard and also on Waywood. The amount of construction that's going in those properties, if you haven't driven those lately, there are hundreds and hundreds of houses gonna go in off of those properties, and I can easily see they will make a shortcut through our area. My understanding is there's gonna be 30,000 homes in the Lake Nona area developed in the next 5 years. So I heartily commend the board for investigating this area. And granted, you need to be transparent with that as well in terms of investigating and publish your results so that we all know what's going on. But to me, you can't do it fast enough because the growth is coming.
Yeah, and I have to commend John Dick, because he's the first guy that really brought this up in a big way, and John attended a lot of these meetings. So 30,000 houses, 45,000 cars, even if we just had 5,000 cars a day cut through our community, it's really, really quite significant. And the other point that's brought up to me is property values in here are really important. And not only are they gonna build 30,000 houses from Innovation Way all the way down to Laureate Park, but someday, for when you folks wanna sell your house, you're gonna have to compete with Village Walk and Eagle Creek and all of these other communities